Good morning. My name is Star Muir. I'm the chair of the worship committee, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Bull Run Unitarian Universalists. We are a safe community for seeking and service. A note for any newcomers or guests that we have today. We welcome you all here, and downstairs after the service we have today a soup and serve, but every Sunday we have fellowship. And if you're inviting conversation, then please be sure and take a golden mug. And the rest of you look for those golden mugs as we circulate in our fellowship time. There are some orders of service announcements that I would call your attention to, and a couple of other things have come up. The Sunday services, of course, are changing as of today. We're going to one service at 10:45, and we'll be at one service through until September 8th, when we do our in-gathering in September. Today is our Super Serve, and we invite you downstairs afterwards for some fellowship and some great soup. And the proceeds for that go to the Serve Shelter, and you're welcome to come down and share lunch with us. The June Split the Plate is the Robert Day Center in Manassas. This is a licensed developmental child care center, and so that'll be our Split the Plate cause for June. If you'd like to teach another adult to read or write, have an interest in helping out at an individual level like that, we have a partnership with Beacon to offer ESL classes Monday and Tuesdays from 7 to 9. If you're interested, there's more information here, but please contact the lady at Beacon, and there's a phone number. And having done this, it is really gratifying to see them light up when they start to learn a new language. And then on the flip side of that, the Brew Portrait is going to be taking an in-depth look at our congregation for the search committee process. And you're invited to do essays or poems, 300 words maximum, music, video, photo montage, 1 minute maximum, and then we're going to take all of that stuff and put it into our packet and the Brew website. And if you're interested or have questions about that, please see Beatrice Devers about the Brew Portrait that we're making. Volleyball has started back up again at the Mark and Ann Hempen House. It's a potluck thing. It happens on Monday nights. You're welcome to come join us for that. A couple of other quick announcements. One of them is that there's a communications primer here in your order of service, and it explores, it looks like 6 different things about communicating through. And the last one there I noticed is old school technology. Including our newsletter, and we do have a newsletter, and it's newsletter@brew.org, and they're always looking for materials or information to include in that. But please, if you have any trouble or any questions about either BrewNet or Crossroads or our Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Foursquare, Google, if you have any questions about any of those, please take a look at this and make sure to stay in touch with our Brew family. Coming up on Monday, June 3rd, we have the Voice Foreclosure and Bank Accountability Action. And if you would please take a look at that. And this is a culminating event, and we're hoping to get a lot of people there for the Voice Foreclosure meeting with some senior executives from financial institutions and so forth. So that information is available, and we hope to see you all there on Monday, June 3rd.
Sign-up table downstairs.
And there's a sign-up table downstairs. I heard it somewhere. Today, RE for K through 5 will be combined, just so you know. K through 5 is combined RE today. And then we have a special announcement for one of our very own staff members. And here to tell you a little bit more about it is Jeanette Muir.
Good morning. I'm feeling especially perky this morning because I spent the night here last night with the teenagers. So, and you too could do that too. It's really interesting. Denise is not here today, but I wanted to let you know that we are actually celebrating her 25th anniversary here when we have our choir service on the 9th. We have a special guest coming that will be recognizing her. There'll be some other very brief things because we can't take too much time out of the choir service. So you know how Elise can be with that. So anyway, we wanted to give everybody a chance. If you wanted to make a donation to a gift for her, the choir always does, but this year because it's a special time, we were told, maybe we should open it up to everyone. So I have an envelope, and if anyone is interested in contributing in some way to a gift for a niece, we would welcome that. You can just see me after the service, and I would be happy to take that from you. Thanks.
Just a couple more things. There's a Brew Directory supplementary information form in your order service, and if you didn't get into the directory or have some corrections or something, we do publish a supplement, and that information is collected, and so you can fill that out and send that forward. Finally, is a week from today. Is it a week? Is it only a week from today? Yeah.
Yes.
A week from today is an event that is the reason why our denomination is so special. We are not ruled by someone in a distant land or someone at a regional location who tells us what to do. We are a democratic faith. And the wonder and the marvel of that is that on June 2nd, we have a congregational meeting, and we get to make decisions about how we govern ourselves and about who the people are we're going to elect to the board and some other issues. And so we encourage you to come on June 2nd. And as I understand it, our president has proxy forms so that if you absolutely cannot make the meeting for the congregation next Sunday, please see him and get a proxy form and give your proxy to another person so that they can vote and be counted as part of our quorum if you're not going to be here. But it's really a special thing to be able to come together and make decisions about what our congregation is going to do. And not a lot of congregations do that, and so I really hope to see you here on next Sunday. And with that, we're into the musical portion of our service.
Thank you. And if you'll join us in body or spirit, we're going to start our service today with a couple of gathering hymns. The first one is 1012 in the teal hymnal. It's called When I Am Friend.
Strong for me, sing to me.
So we'll go through it 2 times, and the pronunciation's at the bottom of page 1056 if you need to. Tu la poesia nada passacaia, tu la poesia nada passacaia.
Please be seated. And please join me in the responsive chalice lighting. Please say it with me. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment.
I think it's time for a story. Story? Anybody help with a story? Come on. Story. Well, we have some who look like they're a little sleepy, who maybe slept in fellowship hall last night. Anybody here? No. No? Oh, yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Who's this? Stitch and Baby Bunny? Very cool. And who are these?
This is Tips and that's her dog Snowy.
Tips and Snowy. They just got married? Congratulations. Do Tips and Snowy, did they ever fight? No? Did they ever disagree about anything? So they've never had any kind of misunderstandings or anything like that? No? That's why they got married. But it may come. Being married, I can tell you that it's come once in a while. But this story this morning is about just that. It's about when you make big promises to one another. And sometimes the promises don't always work out. Or there's hurt. Or there's a sense of betrayal or abandonment. Have you ever felt anything like that? Ever been disappointed by somebody? Yeah, a couple times. Well, there's a saying in the Netherlands. They have a saying that says, "Trust walks in on foot and rides out on a horse." Do you know what that means?
No, they buy a horse.
Right. I'm going to explain a little bit about what that means. And it comes from a story about a mother and a daughter. And the daughter's name is Ellen. And Ellen came home from school one day
in tears. She was sobbing. That's Ellen?
Yeah.
This story's about you.
My sister.
Can I tell your story? Sort of. It might be a different Ellen. But Ellen came home sobbing one day, and her mother just was really distraught seeing her daughter very upset, and asked her what happened. And it turned out, Ellen explained that she told a new friend of hers an embarrassing secret, and by the end of recess, everybody on the playground knew about it. And she came home just devastated. She didn't know what to do, but she said right then and there to her mom, she said, I am never going to tell anything like that ever to anyone. Right? And her mom, who is from Texas, said, atta girl. Well, that's not actually what she said. That's what she felt, because she wanted to protect her daughter. But she also knew that her daughter, in order to make a lot of friends, sometimes you have to share things about yourself, so that you can bring people in and they know stuff about you, that you feel like you're family, like Tips and Snowy feel like right now. But she had to explain to her daughter what trust was, and her daughter didn't really understand about trust. And she recalled to her daughter a couple years back when she was in second grade, she had a teacher named Miss Bachman. And Miss Bachman used to have what they called a marble jar, which is a big jar in the front of the class. And Miss Bachman used to put marbles into the jar every time the class collectively made a good decision or were kind to one another, right? She put a marble in the jar. And every time the class collectively was not very kind to one another, or not very understanding about something, or not very cooperative, then she would take marbles out of the jar, right? And the whole thing is that if the marble jar got full to the top, then the whole class would have a party. Right?
What kind of party?
An ice cream party.
Yay!
And because the class loved ice cream parties, they also learned to love how to do the things that were kind and understanding, and showed a sense of loyalty and friendship to one another, right? And the mother tried to explain to Ellen that trust is like that. You don't fill up your marble jar with marbles all at once and put all your marbles in there and then hand them to a friend and hope that that friend will take good care of them. You put them in one at a time. And you each carry around a marble jar for your friends. Does anybody here have what they would call marble jar friends? Friends who have kept their marbles really safe? Friends who you can rely on and trust and believe in? Yeah? Yeah? Well, I want you to know, and this church to know, that you are marble jar friends to us. And you are the kinds of people that we keep putting marbles in your jar, because our heart fills up every time you come and show up, and every time you remind us that you're here and that you remember us and you think of us. So even though it's time to go to class today, I want you to know that you carry a marble jar with all of these people in it, and that every time you come and show up, it gives us a lot of joy. And that pretty soon we ought to really just have an ice cream party.
Yeah! I like cookie dough ice cream.
Cookie dough ice cream it is. Okay, are you guys ready to sing? Okay. Now is the time in the service that the love that binds us together is spoken aloud. If you have a joy or sorrow that by sharing with this community might bring solace or celebration, please raise your hand. Star will come with a microphone. Please say your name and share that joy or sorrow.
Many of you will remember Beth Kramer and her husband Terry, who went to this church before they moved to Virginia Beach. I had an opportunity to visit with them on Thursday, and Beth has stopped taking medication for her cancer. She's in ill health, but she's in creative spirits, and Terry's taking good care of her.
My wife Betty has come through her artificial knee operation very well, and I'm very pleased with that.
Hi, I'm Rhonda. Yesterday I was at the store and I had a flat tire. So the first gentleman who came along to help me was on his way to his daughter's 5th birthday party, and he had ice cream and so forth. Well, he changed my tire and my spare was flat too. So he called his brother-in-law, Guillermo, to come and help me. And Guillermo came and saw that I had a nail in my tire. And so he says, I can fix this, I'll be back in a little bit. So Guillermo drove off with my tire, and while I was waiting for him to come back, 3 other gentlemen offered to help me with my tire. And I just thought, what a blessed world we live in.
Well, I have a hello from an old original brew member, Madeline Mallory. She was Madeline Nichols then. Rob and I just spent 3 days with them at their new place in Jonesboro, Tennessee, and had a terrific visit. She still misses brewing.
Madeline helped us find our house.
Now, regardless of what your beliefs are about war and things like that, just remember all of our veterans this weekend and all of those who come into town to meet up with old friends or say goodbye to lost ones, and watch out for the motorcycles this weekend. They're trying to watch out for you, but, you know, you're bigger than they are.
Thank you. This Memorial Day, special prayers for all of the women and men who sacrificed a lot, sometimes everything, for peace and freedom, and that we may enjoy that. Originally, it was a commemoration of the soldiers, both Union and Confederate, who fought in the Civil War, but after some time, it was extended to all people who give their lives so that a nation and a world may know peace. For all friends and loved ones who lost weeks or sometimes years, not from a spouse who died, but from years of deployment, which carries its own heavy toll. This morning, we ask for very special prayers for Vicky Castro and Graydon Van and their entire family. Vicky has been serving on the board, has been a member of this church for a little over a year. Last night, her middle son was rushed to the emergency room, and it was in ICU and unresponsive. It turns out that there's a diagnosis of streptococcus meningitis, and he is in very serious condition, and all of your prayers would be appreciated. We offer prayers and thanks also for the life of Ian Denham. The song that we sang this morning, When I Am Frightened, was written by Shelley Jackson Denham, who's written a number of our hymns in our hymnal. Ian is very healthy and has been healthy for a long time, but Friday, after their daughter moved to Atlanta, she was helping them move in, and he had a heart attack and died very suddenly. And so your thoughts and prayers for Shelley and her family and everybody who experiences that kind of sudden loss. Prayers for all of those people who stayed overnight last night at the youth, which often feels like you're dying. But the youth in this community are amazing amazing, very talented, very fun. And they not only deserve your attention, but you really would be on the lucky end of any kind of interaction with them. We pray to remember that all the work done to honor and build and extend peace and trust and love in this world is done with open arms and open hearts. And it happens right here in this building. And we pray that what happens in this building shines out from this place like a beacon, so that even in dark times when we feel lost or uncertain, we know that there is a place that gets it, that understands, and that we have a place to turn. For this work that we do, for these people that we bring, we're grateful. And to this we pray. Amen.
Do this every Sunday.
No hair.
me the idea of buying an electric car. There was a term that kept coming up, and the term was range anxiety. Just reading the word gave me anxiety. With the Nissan Leaf, which is a completely electric car, the amount of miles the car can go when charged is 100% charge is 100 miles, supposedly. The 100 miles is not exact. It depends on any number of things. Environmental factor, driving style, whether you're in stop-and-go traffic, if it's the dead of winter, if it's a hot summer day and you're using the air conditioner. That can be the case. That being the case, I wasn't certain if I should buy this car. What if I had to take an unplanned trip? What if I didn't have enough charge to get to my destination? What was going to be necessary on my end to make this car work for my needs? Did I even want to deal with this so-called range anxiety? Was the car worth it? Well, I determined that the car was worth it. I took delivery of the Nissan Leaf the week before last, and since that time, I've been on 6 round trips from home to work and back, plus a few side trips for ice cream. How has it been? Well, I think about where I'm driving every single day. I used to drive around for about 7 to 10 days without a thought of where I was going or where I had been, and now I think about how far I'm going and how much range I have. And driving for me has been completely turned on its head. Charge stations are not as obvious as gas stations. The first time I charged at a free station, I had no idea what I was doing. I pulled up to the cylinder, that's what they're called, got out of the car, walked up to the LED readout, and it had credit card logos on the screen with the text, "Tap your card on the display." So I pulled out my American Express, which I never leave home without, and tapped on the display, waiting for the readout to say something like, "Go." "Thank you." "Error." However, it didn't say anything, just tap your card, tap your card. At that moment, I noticed a 1-800 number, so I called the number, and Jeremiah answered, and within a minute, he had remotely unlocked the charging station. And he stayed on the line while I plugged the charger into my Leaf. Then he got all my contact information so he could send me a keychain card that I could tap on the display for future use without having to call him. I took a few leaps of faith that day. That the 100-mile range was within reason, that the charging station was going to charge the car, that my car was not going to be messed with while I sat I left it at the charging station for 4 hours. So while my car was charging, I took a 1.5 mile walk home. And I was okay with this because I figured charging my car would require a walk, so I sort of back-ended my way into success. And during my walk home from the electric car station, I never felt so free. First, I was fueling my car for free. Well, the closest to free that one can get in a world where free doesn't really exist. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure if through a short exercise I could trace and pinpoint exactly where this free charging station was coming out of my pocket. But during my walk home, I saw dragonflies, I heard frogs, and even walked past an incredible field of wheat. All while gas-powered trucks and cars zoomed past me. When I arrived home, I watered my vegetable gardens with rainwater from my roof, which I had collected into rain barrels. What an incredible afternoon of seeing a culmination of trusting choices which placed me in a position to truly give back to Mother Earth. You know, there was a time when my range anxiety did not involve how far my car would take me, but rather how far into my day I could exist without alcohol. And there was a day when a free charging station did not involve free energy, but rather the energy of a well-attended, cheap happy hour. My trust in alcohol kept me comfortable, and my best thinking kept me tied to a charging station that was full of escape, avoidance, and numbness. My free charging station was not free at all. It cost me greatly. Through the loss of an education, through the strain of family relationships, the pain was exhausting. When I attempted to put some range between me and my addiction, I couldn't do it. All of my attempts failed. Instead of hanging out at the charging station on Mondays, I decided to hang out at the charging station on just Fridays and Saturdays. This didn't work. Invariably, I would end up right back where I was, beaten and exhausted. And when a person suggested that I stop alcohol altogether, I thought the idea originally was ridiculous. Alcohol was not my problem. My problem was my relationships. My mom and dad, my lack of career to propel me ahead in life, and my friend who had recently wronged me. My problem was not alcohol. However, what I found out was that alcohol magnified the bad relationship, the not getting along with mom and dad, and the lack of career to propel me through life. The idea that drinking could be trusted had to be smashed, and that was terrifying. Trusting what keeps me numb and provides comfort is not trust. Trusting the people and the things that provide feedback to our true ailments, to our true behaviors. Trusting the proverbial flashlight in the basement where all the junk is stored, where we can start to shine, is where we can start to shine. My work did not stop once my relationship with alcohol was smashed. All of the energy that I had been using, going to happy hours and trying to portray that I was okay on the outside, had to go somewhere. Now that fog of alcohol had been lifted, it was time to clean house. The process of reconstruction is long and arduous. For the first time, I had to trust that maybe someone else knew a better way of living than I did. I had to trust a sponsor. Now, a sponsor is a person who has been abstinent for a long period and who is prepared to support a newly abstinent person. And that newly abstinent person is me. Trusting others does not always have a happy ending, though. We are fallible, and I've had my trust broken many times. I find that the people who have broken my trust are not doing it intentionally, but rather they are just as sick with their own struggles. Addiction has been the motivator that has moved me to change. It may be something else for someone else, but I think we all have our thing, the thing that keeps us separated from ourselves and from others. We have to stay green and grow. I have to continue trusting myself and others. My life has been set up in recent years with some great examples of trust. I have a marriage that I don't doubt for a minute. I know that the appropriate work has gone into creating a solid partnership. I have a career that I've been able to build by just showing up. You know, alcohol kept me from being able to show up. Once the veil of alcohol was lifted, I could show up and be a part of. I have a wonderful, trusting relationship with my dad today. And the friends who surround me are all wonderful, trusting individuals. Once I became trustworthy, the people who were attracted to me were also trustworthy. When I was out of the midst of my addiction, when I was in the midst of it, right in the middle of that stuff, I was attracted to untrustworthy people. You get what you give. I was giving bad, and I was getting bad. And when I started giving good, I got good. You know, this journey is specific to me. However, I think it has a greater applicability. Putting trust in the uncomfortable. Shining a light and giving space to our feelings. With help from a trusted source and a little planning, I need not be anxious about how far I can go. I also know that I have to give back the energy that has been freely given to me. Energy cannot be uncreated. It's energy. It has to go somewhere. When you give energy to that which is uncomfortable, you turn on the power to shine.
hard shine. And sometimes it's those people specifically who feel most in the dark. Each week we come and we share of our generosity so that we can move into our best selves. And by being our best selves, we attract the best in others. We invite you to give generously to this morning's offering. Will the ushers please come forward? PersUUasion.
Hey, we love you.
Who here has had their heart broken? Yeah, most of us could raise our hands a couple times. Who here has been betrayed in a way too painful to ever forget? Had a marble jar friend who one day just walked off with all the marbles. And you never connected in the same way with that person, or with those people, or people who look like them. Who here has lost trust? And maybe not just with one person, but with groups of people. And not just once, but for a long time. And we're left feeling a little lost and a little disillusioned. Who here has at one time or another switched from trust to cynicism because it's easier? And maybe the circumstance deserved it. but then later, when you wanted to switch back into openness and wholeheartedness, found it tough to make that switch. And despite promising yourself that you wouldn't end up being that jaded or guarded person that you've seen in your life, and you said you never wanted to be like them, it's still hard to breach that distance of living with life at arm's length. The truth is, we've all been there. And not just us here and now, but people everywhere and for a long time. Listen to this poem by 14th century Persian poet Hafez. What do sad people have in common? It seems they have all built a shrine to the past, to all the hurts and betrayals they've known. And they often go there and cry in a strange, wailing way that becomes the way they worship, as though religiously wailing will somehow protect them from ever being hurt again. What is the beginning of happiness? It is to stop being so religious like that. Oops. Take a look at this picture. Now think about it without saying anything. How many people see a face? How many people see a word? If I turn the face on its face, how many people see a word? How many people still have situations in their lives where they can't help but see the word even when they're looking at someone's face? It can happen when we look at the world. It can happen when we look at other people. It can sometimes even happen when we look in the mirror. Changing that, relearning how to trust and love the world again after being hurt is work. Spiritual work. Sometimes a lifetime's worth of work. I want to tell you this morning about one of my heroes who has taught me a lot about this. There's a man by the name of Thomas Merton. Some of you may know him, have read some stuff by him. You may know him as one of the world's most popular monks, sort of like a super monk of the 20th century. The reason I admire him is not really because of his theology or his holiness. It was because, as I read about him, I understood how he struggled so much to understand and accept his own pain and the pain of the others in his life with whom he had conflicts, who had broken his heart. Merton was born to an American mother and a New Zealand father, two artists who met in Paris who were a little bit narcissistic and not necessarily as into being parents as they were into leading parts of their lives. And his mother died of cancer when Thomas was 6. He was sent to a boarding school in France and then another one later in England, and he felt a little bit betrayed and abandoned by his father for not taking closer care of him. And when his father died of a brain tumor when he was 15, Merton struggled for something he really could believe in and trust. He eventually enrolled in Cambridge University as an aspiring writer. And stories that describe his dismissal from Cambridge include reports about someone getting pregnant or being cast out by the woman's family and certainly being cast out by the school. None of it's necessarily confirmed, but all of it reveals a certain amount of pain. Disillusioned and alone, Thomas Merton retreated into himself, and he turned to religion for its sense of order and discipline. And first he was interested in becoming a Franciscan, but when they found out that he had an illegitimate child, they rejected him. So he ended up becoming a Trappist monk. Anybody who knows anything about the Trappist monks knows that it's one of the strictest and most demanding of religious orders. It's sort of like the Marine Corps of religious orders. As a Trappist monk, he was forbidden contact with the outside world at all. But Merton discovered how we can encounter range anxiety, as Jennifer puts it, even when retreating from the world into ourselves. The Trappist order he belonged to in Louisville, Kentucky, assigned him to write mostly monastic history and history of the saints. But Thomas Merton was unconventional, one of the things that made him really interesting and great. And he began to understand that human beings were made to be in relationship. And even though it was against orders, he secretly began having correspondence with the likes of the Dalai Lama and Thich Nhat Hanh and Pope John Paul XXIII and Martin Luther King Jr. on issues of war and racism and women's rights and the environment. He helped to shape a lot of what came out of some very dark conversations and bring some light into those moments and help people move from conflict and feelings of personal and existential betrayal to a sense of connection. Several of the books and collections of letters were published, and Merton became very well known. He became sort of like a rock star among monks, if there is such a thing. But no one knew what he looked like. And to make matters worse, everyone at the Abbey in Louisville referred to him as Father Louis. So sometimes he would lead tours, and he found that people would come on pilgrimages to visit him and meet the man who had written so many great things. And they would come and he would lead the tour, and the people would always ask, "Can you show me where Thomas Merton lives and where he writes?" And he would always say, "What do you want to see him for? He's not so great. He's not nearly as holy as people think he is." In his writings, Merton described himself as a man whose only attempts at relationship ended disastrously. But that retreat from conflicts and from complicated feelings and relationships was not what would gain him peace. The story of his epiphany came while running errands for the monastery in downtown Louisville, Kentucky. And those who are going to General Assembly this year in Louisville have a chance to go to the corner of 4th and Walnut and read a little bit about what his epiphany was. I will read to you what he said occurred to him there from his memoir, Conjectures of a Guilty Bystander. He says, "In Louisville, at the corner of 4th and Walnut, in the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all these people. That despite their heartbreak and mine, that we could not be alien to one another, even though we were really total strangers. It was like waking from a dream of separateness, of spurious self-isolation in a special world. This sense of liberation from an illusion of difference was such a relief and such a joy to me that I almost laughed out loud, as if the sorrows and stupidities of the human condition could overwhelm me. But now I realize there is not one Savior, but we're all possible Saviors to each other. If only everyone could realize this. But it cannot be explained. There is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun. It was as if I suddenly saw the secret beauty of their hearts, the depths of their souls, where neither sin nor desire nor self-loathing can reach, the core of their reality, the person that each one is in God's eyes. If only they could all see themselves as they really are, If only we could see each other that way all the time. We started out this